In the spring of 1922, a small farm called Hinterkaifeck sat alone in the Bavarian countryside of Germany. The nearest neighbors lived far enough away that the property felt completely isolated. It was quiet, surrounded by fields and woods, and home to 6 members of the Gruber family. Everything seemed ordinary from the outside, but in the days before the murders, the family began experiencing strange events that no one could explain, and every one of them was real. The family's patriarch, Andreas Gruber, reportedly told neighbors that he had found footprints in the snow leading from the forest toward his farmhouse. What made the discovery so unsettling was that he couldn't find any footprints leading back into the woods. Someone, or at least something, had apparently walked to the farm, but there was no clear sign that they had ever left. Around the same time, Andreas mentioned hearing footsteps coming from the attic late at night. He searched the house but found no one. Then another strange thing happened. A house key disappeared. Not long afterward, a newspaper that no one in the family subscribed to appeared inside the home. These incidents made Andreas uneasy, but life on the farm continued. On March 31st, 1922, the mystery took a horrifying turn. One by one, 4 members of the family were lured into the barn. Exactly why they entered separately remains unknown. Inside, they were attacked and killed with a farming tool known as a mattock. Back inside the house, the family's 2-year-old daughter and the maid were also murdered. The entire household had been wiped out. But the horror didn't end there. When neighbors noticed the family hadn't been seen for several days, they grew concerned. Mail had begun piling up. The children had missed school. Eventually, people entered the property to investigate. What they found shocked even experienced investigators. Evidence suggested someone had remained at the farm after the murders. The livestock had been fed. Meals appeared to have been prepared. The fireplace had been used. Whoever committed the murders may have stayed inside the farmhouse for several days, while 6 victims lay dead on the property. Police questioned numerous suspects over the years. The investigation became one of Germany's most famous unsolved murder cases. Despite decades of interviews and theories, no one was ever convicted. Some investigators believed the killer was someone the family knew. Others believed it was a drifter. Many theories have come and gone, but none have been proven. More than 100 years later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved. What happened on that isolated farm in 1922 is still one of history's greatest mysteries. And perhaps the most chilling part isn't just that 6 people lost their lives. It's that someone may have been living among them long after they were gone. In 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus believed they had finally found the perfect home. It was a large 6-bedroom house located at 657 Boulevard in Westfield, New Jersey. The neighborhood was quiet, the schools were highly rated, and after purchasing the home for more than $1 million, they were excited to begin a new chapter with their 3 children. Before moving in, they spent several days painting, cleaning, and making small renovations. Then, something arrived in the mail. The envelope was addressed simply to the new owner. Inside was a typed letter. The writer introduced themselves with a single name, The Watcher. At first, the letter seemed odd but almost harmless. Then it took a darker turn. The writer claimed their family had been watching the house for decades. According to the letter, previous generations had watched it before them, and now it was their turn. The author asked why the family was there. Had they been sent to the house? Were they going to fill it with young blood? The letter specifically mentioned the couple's children, even though they had only been at the property for a short time. That meant someone had been watching. The family immediately contacted police. Investigators advised them not to tell the neighbors while they tried to identify who had written the letters. But more letters arrived. Each one became more unsettling than the last. The writer described renovation work taking place inside the home and mentioned details that suggested they had been watching the house almost constantly. One letter asked if the children had discovered what was hidden inside the walls. Another referred to the house as if it belonged to the writer, saying it had been waiting for its next occupants. Police interviewed neighbors, collected DNA from envelopes, and examined surveillance footage. Despite the investigation, no suspect could be identified. The Broaddus family became increasingly frightened. Instead of moving into the home they had worked so hard to buy, they stayed away. Years passed. The letters continued to haunt the family, even as the investigation stalled. The case attracted national attention. Journalists, private investigators, and internet detectives all tried to solve the mystery. Dozens of theories emerged. Some believed it was a neighbor. Others believed it was someone trying to scare the family into selling. Still, others questioned whether the letters were connected to someone with a long history in the neighborhood. None of those theories were ever proven. Eventually, after years of legal disputes and financial loss, the family sold the home. To this day, the identity of the Watcher has never been officially confirmed. The letters remain one of the most famous unsolved stalking cases in America. The family never discovered who was watching them, and whoever called themselves the Watcher has never publicly revealed their identity. On the morning of April 12, 1981, a quiet mountain resort in Northern California became the scene of one of the state's most disturbing unsolved crimes. Inside cabin 28, Sue Sharp, her teenage son John, and John's friend Dana Wingate were found murdered. The crime scene was unlike anything investigators in the small community had experienced. Furniture had been overturned. There were signs of an intense struggle. Yet something made the case even more unsettling. 3 younger children had spent the entire night asleep in a nearby bedroom. They were physically unharmed. When they woke up the next morning, they had no idea that a horrific crime had taken place just a few feet away. The investigation quickly drew national attention. Detectives interviewed dozens of people connected to the victims and searched for possible suspects. Evidence suggested that more than one person may have been involved. However, as the investigation continued, serious problems emerged. Important pieces of evidence reportedly disappeared. Some leads were never fully followed. Over time, criticism grew over how the investigation had been handled. Years turned into decades. Rumors spread throughout the small community. Some believed the killers had been identified early but were never charged. Others believed the truth had been lost because of investigative mistakes. In 1984, another heartbreaking discovery was made. The remains of Tina Sharp, Sue's 12-year-old daughter who had disappeared the night of the murders, were found many miles away in a remote area. Her disappearance added another layer of mystery to an already baffling case. As forensic technology improved, investigators reopened the case several times. New evidence was examined. Potential suspects were discussed publicly. Despite renewed interest, no one has ever been convicted. More than 4 decades later, the Keddy Cabin murders remain officially unsolved. For many people, what makes this case so haunting isn't only the violence. It's the unanswered questions. Who entered Cabin 28 that night? Why were 3 children left alive while others were killed? And could the truth have been discovered if crucial evidence hadn't been lost? Those questions remain unanswered. The cabin itself is gone. It was demolished years later. But the mystery surrounding what happened inside Cabin 28 continues to fascinate investigators, journalists, and true crime researchers around the world. Some mysteries fade with time. This one never has.